Y'all, what's a surefire way to ruin a hike? Being too sweaty, being too cold, being too uncomfortable. Well, in today's video, I'm going to share the best hiking gear for plus size hikers to help you stay comfortable on the trail. Hey y'all, I'm Jeffrey. Welcome back to my channel where we are trying to make hiking and backpacking accessible for everyone. That's the goal here. This is part 2 of a 3-part series on ultralight hiking gear for plus size adventurers. So be sure to check out part 1 for tips on shoes. What else did we cover? Backpacks, I don't know, and more. Today we are diving into moisture-wicking hiking layers, also trekking poles, and then the best ultralight tents for plus size backpackers, or at least a couple that I've used that have worked really well for me. So you'll find links to all the gear that I mentioned today in the description below, so be sure to check that out and stick around till the end because I am going to tell you about a really easy way for you to dive into your first outdoor adventure. Okay, today, first and foremost, we are starting with layers. Layers are essential for any bigger thru hiker, and here is why. I said thru hiker, but backpacker, trail runner, anyone doing something active out in nature. So I guess this doesn't go for all plus size people, but I am a sweater. I sweat a lot, and I think that tends to be more common with we thicker folk, and that can turn out to be really dangerous when you're in a remote location. Being wet and cold is a really bad combination and a great way to end up hypothermic. And when trail running, I have so many times wound up in some really precarious situations where I've ran on a trail deep out into the mountains. I am just drenched in sweat and it's too cold for that. And so I can't stop. I can't really rest long enough for it to be impactful because I get too cold and hypothermic. And, you know, God forbid something were to happen, like a twisted ankle or something that prevented me from being able to move to keep my body temperature up. So all that to say, controlling your body temperature on the trail is not just a matter of comfort, it's a matter of safety. Not controlling your body temperature and getting too wet with sweat can be really dangerous. So my tip for that is layers. I mean, everyone knows that we need to be wearing and taking layers for different purposes, but there's a lot of multi-purpose layers, and I, for plus size hikers, am actually going to advocate against that. And the reason is because it just gives you a little bit less flexibility. And let me give you an example of that. This is a discovery that I made on my PCT thru hike, and it's a really good example of what I am talking about. So, this is the Inlined Equipment Torrid Puffy. It is a synthetic insulation, which was a priority for me because my sleeping bag is down. Down loses its insulating properties when it's wet, so I always like to make sure that if I'm carrying down gear, that I also have at least one synthetic insulating layer just in case, God forbid, all my stuff ended up in a river or something and got completely drenched. But this is the puffy that I started my Pacific Crest Trail thru hike with, and it was amazing. I loved it. It was great. But I ended up sending it home. And the reason I ended up sending it home was because, keep in mind, this does not provide the same warmth as that, but I didn't need that much warmth. I thought I would, and I didn't end up needing that much warmth on the trail. So that is a big caveat as to why this worked. But I ended up using, this is a Senshi Designs, I think Alpha 60 hoodie. You can see the texture, it's really fluffy. And that is how, despite being super lightweight, that is how it provides so much warming insulation, is because all those little fibers trap warm air between them. This is the Inlined Equipment Copperfield wind shirt, and it turned out that pairing these together was much better for me. Again, because I didn't need as much warmth as the Torrid. But the reason I liked this was because I could wear these together and I got a similar effect to that. I kept the wind off of my skin, and I also got insulation. from the Torrid. But this separated those features and gave me the ability to, like, I could never ever wear that while moving. I would instantly be soaked. Like, I don't know how cold it would have to be outside for me to be able to like run or hike in that without being drenched in sweat. So that's the situation that I'm dealing with. And this gave me a lot more flexibility. If I just needed a little bit of warmth, but I wanted a little bit of wind, I wanted that air movement, I could just wear this and not need this. If I just needed the wind off of me, but it wasn't really that cold, I just needed the wind off of me, I'd wear this. And if I needed both, I'd wear both. So all that to say, with your layers, I would advocate for plus size hikers, I'd advocate for separating them so that you have the ability to customize it more to give you a little bit more control over your body temperature on trail.
Hello, hey, if you are sitting there thinking, oh, I want to travel more, I want to go on more adventures, come with me. I host trips around the world. We've been hiking in Patagonia, we went looking for the Northern Lights in Iceland, trekking in Nepal, camping in Banff, Canada, in the Canadian Rockies. We do it all, and we have a real good time. Everyone's welcome, and all the details for any current trips, just click that little bubble up in the top corner, or go to my website, jjb.life/travel. And we almost always make at least one group cringy TikTok. So come hang out with us. We're a real good time.
Okay, next up, let's talk trekking poles. Now, these bad boys are not just for seasoned thru hikers. These are a lifesaver for everyone, but especially plus size hikers. These can reduce strain on your knees by up to 25%, which means that at the end of the day, you're gonna feel less of that fatigue I was talking about, that pounding on your feet that we bigger hikers and runners feel at the end of the day, or just on steep trails. This really adds up and makes a difference at the end of the day. Now, these are Lecky carbon fiber poles. These, I've had them for years. They have been to 3 continents, 7 countries. They've been everywhere. They've been to Patagonia. They've been to Nepal. These things are amazing. Hot tip: you can. Oh, I didn't do this on purpose, but you can have the tips replaced. So these little things right here on the end, those are slowly going to wear down. And I had never had a pair long enough for them to wear down, but they did finally on the PCT. And you know, it happens so slowly that you don't really notice it. And somebody mentioned that you could have them replaced. So I had them replaced. I think, where were we? Bend, maybe? I don't remember. But I had them replaced and it made such a difference. I didn't realize how much they were sliding and how much they were worn down. So anyway, get those tips replaced if you need to. But going with carbon fiber, it's tricky, and this is not a trekking pole purchasing guide video, but going with carbon fiber is going to be lighter, but it is not as robust. And so it's a choice that every plus size hiker is going to have to make, whether you would prefer to save a little bit of weight, knowing that they might not hold as much weight. A common way that they break is to snap. So you might fall, or your pole gets stuck somewhere you weren't expecting and it gets bent in the middle. And that seems to be the most common way that they break. They really hold like this way. They can take a ridiculous amount of force, but they're not as robust with side force. So anyway, the carbon fiber, not going to be as robust. It is going to be lighter, but as a bigger hiker, it's up to you. You may want to go with aluminum poles, which are, there's other materials too, that might be heavier, but more robust. These are carbon fiber. They've been great. They don't make these anymore. That's why I am just trying to milk every mile out of these that I can. A couple other tips. Well, I don't know, maybe this is for another video. I don't want to dive too deep into trekking poles. But when you're going uphill, it's usually best to shorten them just slightly and then lengthen them when you are going downhill and close to your body for extra leverage. I don't know, it's just like a little extra set of legs, you know? So I don't know, if you're like me and you trip a lot, these are also, I can't tell you how many times these have kept me from tripping. I'm really lazy about picking up my feet on the trail, and these, I don't know if I fell any on the PCT. I don't think so, but I'm a notoriously clumsy trail runner, and these are really killer for saving your butt. Okay, next up, let's talk about where you are going to sleep, your tent. Now, having the right tent is going to really make or break any camping or backpacking experience, especially if you are a plus size adventurer who needs a little bit more space to stretch out. And you really want to be comfortable at night. You want to make sure that you're getting some quality sleep, because all hikers, but especially plus size hikers, we need to heal at night. We need to rest. We need to repair. So it's important that you get some good sleep. Now, these are two of the tents that I would recommend. They're the two that I own that are specifically for bigger hikers. This is the Z-Pax Ultraplex and the Z-Pax Duplex L. Now, these are both versions of popular tents of theirs that are altered slightly for bigger hikers. The Ultraplex is a slightly taller one-person backpacking tent. It's the taller version of, I don't remember what it's called, Plexamid, Hexamid, something like that. There's a version that's not as tall. It doesn't have as much headroom. And so that's great if you are on the taller side and want a little bit extra headroom. The Duplex L, the dimensions, the Duplex is, I don't know this, but I would be very surprised if the Duplex was not Z-Pac's most popular tent. It is a two-person tent. I think they only make them in DCF, Dyneema Cuban fiber, which is an ultralight material that's really common with some outdoor equipment, ultralight outdoor equipment. But the Duplex L is their popular duplex tent, but it's longer and it has a few extra inches in length. And I think it's a couple or a few inches more narrow. So the dimensions are just slightly different to accommodate a taller hiker. And another benefit of going with an ultralight tent is without adding too much more weight, you can get a tent that's going to give you a little bit more room. If you're a plus size hiker, width-wise, I would suggest a two-person tent always. It's especially if you go with an ultralight tent, you're not going to be carrying that much more weight, and you're going to have so much more room inside. You're going to have room for your gear and stuff. And that's, I didn't do that. I went with very, very minimal. But for not much more weight, I could have been quite a bit more comfortable. So I might need to think about that next time. But I don't know, if you've ever felt cramped in a tent or struggled to fit all of your gear inside, you know how nice it is to have just a little bit of extra space in that tent. So again, these are two options, but a lot of different manufacturers have versions of their tents specifically for people who need a little more width or a little more length. So when you find a tent, check those out and see if there's an option that's a little better suited to your body type. Okay, my last tip, this isn't a gear item, but I would always recommend starting small. There's no reason to dive into this biting off more than you can chew. Start with easily digestible day hikes, things like that, and ease into it if you're brand new to this. Another great way are group trips, whether it's a group tour, you know, if you're going somewhere and you want to go on a hike, or you want to do some outdoorsy activity, but you don't have people to do it with you, or you're alone, do a group trip. Everything's going to be provided. You are going to have expert guides who are guiding you through everything, and it's a really comfortable way to dive into trying that stuff for the first time. Also, group trips. And speaking of which, I'm hosting a group trip to Banff. It's a really chill, beginner, outdoorsy trip. We are doing some hikes, but they're all shorter, easier hikes, and it's a combination of nature and pampering. We're also going to a spa. We're doing some shopping in Banff. We're doing a chill bike tour around Banff, so it should be really fun. It's in September, and of course, the link is in the description below. We take care of all the logistics, gear, meals, transportation, and so you just have to focus on, having fun. I think it's the perfect way to meet like-minded adventurers. We always end up with a really, really cool group. So click the link in the description if you want to check that out. Hey, that's it for part 2. We talked about moisture-wicking hiking clothes and layers, trekking poles, ultralight tents. All of it is to help you stay comfortable on the trail. So if you haven't watched part 1 yet, check it out. There's other tips on shoes and backpacks in there. And don't miss part 3. It's coming up. I'm going to share some pro tips for plus-size hikers. That's hard to say. Pro tips for plus-size hikers, including how to pick the perfect sleeping pad. That's an important one. And how to ease into hiking adventures. So don't forget to check out the description for links to all the gear I mentioned today. Thanks for watching. And as always, happy hiking. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and click that thumbs up. It really makes a difference. It does. Want to watch another video? Click here. Want to learn more about my upcoming trips? Click here. Want to subscribe and like all my videos and turn those bell notifications on?